There you go.
Hello, and welcome to This Is Us. I'm Becca King-Reed, and this week we're at the Happy Hollow Park and Zoo, and I'm with the lemurs, and they are so gentle. They're beautiful creatures from Madagascar. They're hungry, they like fruit, and they're endangered. So you can see their beautiful fur is meant for rainforest, and so they can, the fur actually keeps the rain off them. You'd rather have a cherry, is that it? Okay. Want a berry? All right. Their tails are lovely. I don't know if you can see them on camera, but their tails are about 2 feet long. And they've got lovely hands. And with those hands, they can hang from branches. And they don't have opposable thumbs, but they have opposable toes. So they can really get a good grip. They live to be about anywhere 20 years or more. Oh no, I'm out of fruit, I'm so sorry. They are just lovely animals. A little later in the show, we'll meet more animals, including some wonderful meerkats and a porcupine. Happy Hollow Zoo is the first amusement park and zoo in the country to be certified LEED Gold by the U.S. Green Building Council, and we'll learn more about that later too. We'll also meet 3 extraordinary local community leaders. Sal Khan, who's transforming education with YouTube videos, Sylvia McLaughlin, who was at the forefront of saving the San Francisco Bay from landfill, and Nell Newman, whose Newmans Own Organics company has given away more than $20 million to charity. We've got a lot of stories to share, and it all starts now.
This is us.
This is us. This is us.
Welcome back to This Is Us. I am here with Vanessa Roger. And Vanessa, tell me who your friends are.
So this is Lori. Lori's part of our education department. And this is Zoe, who's a prehensile tailed porcupine, who's also part of our education department.
Well, she is lovely. And tell us a little about her special role here, and then we'll find out more about Zoe.
So Zoe is one of our animal ambassadors. So she actually spends time, she's not on exhibit here at the zoo, but she actually goes out to schools, to community centers. So she brings the zoo out into the bigger world.
Now, if you send Zoe out to school, she must be pretty safe, although she's covered in spikes. So tell us about the spikes.
So those are her quills, and they're used for her protection. And a lot of people think that that porcupines can throw their quills, and they can't. It's just a myth.
So we're perfectly safe here?
Yes.
Now, I understand you can pet a porcupine. How do you do that?
Very carefully and in one direction.
Okay, so only petting down?
Correct.
Now,
If you pet the other way, you're going to come out with a handful of quills.
Sort of like those spikes in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Now, what's she eating?
She is eating peanuts right now. This is one of her training foods. And Lori, you can see here, is having her do a series of behaviors, but she has to do that for a peanut.
So so you can train a porcupine.
You can. I think you can train a lot of animals, and Zoe does a great job at it.
Now, where did these come from?
They're from South America. They're different than the North American porcupines here in this area. But you can see that the biggest difference here is their tail, which is a prehensile tail, which is used for climbing and hanging on.
So they can really grab with that tail?
They can. It's not like a hand, but they can use it to stabilize themselves and to make sure they don't fall out of a tree.
Are they nocturnal?
They are nocturnal.
And where do they live? On the ground, in the trees?
No, they're more tree dwelling.
Well, they are adorable. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at the meerkats, so be sure to stay with us. In the meantime, Gregg has the story of a local man who's making algebra fun.
So, do we feel like we need to spend more time on subtracting fractions? Are we ready to move on? Yes, okay.
There's an easy answer to fixing the education system in America. Hire more teachers.
Jordan!
The cost of one-to-one learning at the Los Altos Middle School would be roughly $1.2 million, just for Mrs. Thordeson's 5th grade math class. There has to be a different solution.
I did not imagine this. I did not imagine like this thing that can reach millions of students. I did not imagine that by any stretch of the imagination. I imagined myself being some type of a teacher or a professor. That was kind of my dream. I mean, I never thought that the tool would be the internet and YouTube.
Sal Khan is a typical Silicon Valley guy. He went to MIT to pursue his interests in computer science and finance, and when he graduated, he took a job as an analyst for a venture capital firm. Just another Silicon Valley guy riding his bike to the office every day. But at night, he had a lot of free time on his hands. His wife was finishing her hospital residency, and Sal struggled to play a little guitar. He read some books by Isaac Asimov and Orson Scott Card, and he coached his younger cousins in basic algebra on YouTube.
If you divide by 7, those cancel out, but you can't just do it to the left-hand side. Anything you do to the left, you have to do to the right in order for the equality to still hold true. So
by 2007, 2008, it became clear that this was people other than my own family members were watching this stuff. So that was by itself pretty interesting, but there wasn't a lot of, people weren't taking us seriously as an institution in 2007 or 2008, or at least the philanthropic community wasn't taking us seriously as an institution then. But then, 2009, I quit my job, and so I guess that was kind of the beginning of the wild ride part of it.
Sal sat in the spare bedroom of his house, and he kept making videos. Algebra lessons, biology lessons, chemistry classes, astronomy, banking, computer science. And now people were beginning to take Sal's cottage industry seriously.
The major funders for Khan Academy, Ann and John Doerr were the first people who gave a major investment. That was May of 2010. And so that was I still consider that like one of the major moments in the history of the Khan Academy, because that went from, gee, can I do this for a living? Well, I have to go get another job. Will this have to stay a hobby? Like, no, wow, we can do this for real.
The Khan Academy received millions of dollars from tech industry leaders and thousands of small donations from grateful parents. Sal Khan was teaching their children one-on-one at their own pace. Even the kids who said they really weren't math people.
now the way to think about it is each of these diagonals are a number place.
There's been AV equipment in classrooms for 60 years. Film strips, cassettes, and VHS tapes to support the teacher. So why is everybody excited about the Khan Academy? The fundamental shift is that Sal's videos aren't supporting the teacher. The teacher is supporting the students.
You have your kids who are challenged by what you're doing and maybe tend to tune you out after the first 5 minutes. And then you have your kids who have heard this many, many times and feel really comfortable with it, and they also are tuning you out because they're slightly bored. This is stuff that they know how to do. So you're sort of teaching to that middle group of kids. But with Khan Academy, it's like having 30 teachers in the classroom as well. And my role, rather than being the one who knows all of the information, has become more of a mentor and a coach.
Okay.
The Khan Academy has its critics, passionately vocal critics. They say that hiding in the middle is being replaced by hiding behind a screen all day, and that excessive screen time separates the child from the teacher.
So what we're hoping is happening, and we're seeing this in many of the pilots we're doing, is that there's more class time now for interactivity. There's more class time, and when I say interactivity, human-to-human interactivity. There's more class time for getting up and doing a project, and it is essentially the extension of a Montessori, which is essentially kids taking ownership of their learning, freeing up time during the class day. Now they can go into class and they can do Montessori play, but they can do it at a pretty intense level where they can, hey, let's build a robot.
The pilot program in Los Altos has only been running for a year. The scrutiny is intense as thousands of people wait for the results from a few dozen students. Meanwhile, it's just one of the frontiers Khan Academy is exploring. The videos are being closed captioned, translated, and transferred to DVD. Videos and practice exercises are being hand-carried into places where the internet isn't available. Like Sal said, it's a wild ride. In the meantime, Sal is staying focused on his first passion, making videos for the millions of casual learners who find him on YouTube. People that just need a little help on calculating the null space of a matrix.
That's just matrix A right there, and that's just the zero vector right there.
Sometimes, going back to like the knee-jerk criticism of Khan Academy, some people say, oh, well, where's the editorial board? There's just some one dude, and he just sticks stuff on YouTube, and then immediately millions of kids, their impressionable minds, he can say whatever he wants. But what's I think they're missing is that, no, but everyone is watching that stuff, and the credibility of the organization to some degree rests on the quality of these videos. And so if not only, if something is just not up to snuff on those videos, we get called out very, very quickly.
So I wanted to just make that correction. It was a slight error. I shouldn't have viewed this as 0.3 billion years. This is only 0.3 million years.
Sal humbly makes corrections, takes advice on clarifications, and he keeps moving on. He has a vision of an educational institution, one that creates deep and long-term understanding in the lives of learners.
And there's actually a video that I show a lot of people about this student, adult learner. He was a music major in college.
I don't think I've ever gotten higher than a B+ in any math class ever.
Decided to go back to college, used Khan Academy over 4 years. He has a 4.0 GPA in electrical engineering, and he's just like this rock star. And the reason why I sat down and did hours and hours of videos is because every few videos I'd get one of these comments or one of these emails from somebody saying, this changed how I view math, or this changed how my kids are able to learn, or what. I was like, wow, and I would just keep doing them. A lot of people are doing their passion, but they can't imagine doing that exact same thing for the next 50 years. But I view it as the ultimate blessing if I'm able to do exactly what I'm doing for the next, until I die. It's fun.
Welcome back to the Happy Hollow Park and Zoo. I'm here with Vanessa and 50 of her closest friends. Tell me about these goats, Vanessa.
So these animals are part of our contact area, and we have lots of other animals that people can buy some food and feed, including dwarf zebus, Navajo churro sheep, miniature horses, donkeys, and of course 50 of these varied goats.
The kids must love this.
This is a great experience. For a lot of kids, this is their first experience with animals besides cats and dogs.
Okay, well, they are wonderful. This is great. Thanks for letting me in the pen.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll meet the meerkats. But first, we want to introduce you to a woman who has saved the San Francisco Bay. The San Francisco Bay, a view envied around the world. And we have it, all thanks to a force of nature named Sylvia McLaughlin.
So you really can't underestimate the impact that she's had. Well, without Sylvia, the bay might have been narrowed to just a small river.
I thought it was just something I had to do. I thought the bay was one of the most wonderful things I'd ever seen.
95-year-old Sylvia never planned on being an environmental crusader. She just knew something needed to change. In 1961, Sylvia watched from her Berkeley Hills home as garbage trucks began dumping into the bay. The city planned to double its size by adding a giant trash landfill. Other cities soon had similar ideas.
David Rockefeller wanted to have an island out there the size of Manhattan by filling the bay, taking off the top of San Bruno Mountain.
Before long, 40 burning garbage dumps were strung around the bay's shoreline.
There was no common agreement on who could stop that. There was no state agency or federal agency charged with regulating the bay.
Then the Oakland Tribune printed a map of what the bay would look like by 2020, a narrow shipping channel. That's when Sylvia and her friends sprang into action.
We were certainly very outraged. The idea of having it filled, just something we couldn't bear.
Sylvia teamed with two other UC Berkeley faculty wives, Kay Kerr and Esther Gullick, to form the organization Save the Bay. If no one was going to do something, then they would.
This was the first grassroots environmental movement by citizens in the San Francisco Bay Area or any bay around the country.
Kay Kerr did most of the writing. Esther kept the books and kept us on track. I was the one that was sort of pushed out in front.
When I was 6 years old, I just thought this is normal. You have 100 people in the house all discussing issues. Doesn't everyone do this?
To end the bay's destruction, Sylvia knew they would need the support of the entire Bay Area.
People dismissed Sylvia and her friends as housewives, and in fact they proved that they were powerful leaders who could mobilize thousands of people to take control.
I think it was probably close to 2,000 of supporters that we had.
The groundswell worked. In 1963, Berkeley announced it was ending its dumping. Their crusade continued until the state of California announced it was suspending all plans to fill in the bay and establishing a coastal management agency. In 1969, Governor Ronald Reagan made this official by signing it into law.
I was just exceedingly pleased, and I felt it was really an honor to be up there and seeing the governor signing this bill.
50 years later, the bay is still thriving.
So Save the Bay has been at the forefront of effort creating habitat and restoring tidal marshes, so many of which have been destroyed. There's now a bay trail that extends more than 200 miles halfway around the bay. There's a necklace of shoreline parks. People really embrace the bay.
It's hard to picture that a view from my office window might have looked like San Fernando Valley instead of open water with sailboats.
As for Sylvia, the last surviving founder of Save the Bay, she's still going strong too.
She's tough to keep up with.
Sylvia still lifts weights twice a week at UC Berkeley's gym. In fact, she was even its publicity poster child for a while.
Oh, I don't mind. You know, anything for the cause.
Another cause led her up an oak tree at Cal. Sylvia and others were trying to save an old grove from being destroyed. The San Francisco Chronicle captured these images.
Oh, I just climbed up the ladder onto this bridge. I like to climb, yes.
My mother is an inspiration to me and to my family and to all of us.
And something tells us Sylvia will keep finding ways to inspire those around her. So welcome back to the Happy Hollow Park and Zoo. Vanessa and I are in the meerkat enclosure. They don't like fast moves, so hopefully they'll wander back in a minute. Tell me a little bit about these meerkats.
So hi guys. Happy Hollow is home to 7 meerkats. And these guys are originally from South Africa and living in the desert areas. They actually rose to fame, as a lot of people know, as Timon in The Lion King. So they became very popular. But this is also a species survival plan animal. It's an SSP animal. And what that means is that zoos across the United States cooperate to protect the genetic pool of many animals. So it's like a computer dating for animals, and they keep track of who's had babies with whose, and at a certain point they may ask us to move some of our animals to a different zoo or have new animals come here for breeding purposes, and it's about keeping the genetic pool clean in captivity.
And why would that be important?
So it's about keeping a viable pool of genes for an endangered animal, but it's also about the possibility of one day, if there's habitat left in the wild, to actually reintroduce them again. So it's a little bit of both.
Well, it sounds like a good plan, and they sure look happy. What have you got there in your paper towel tube?
So this is enrichment, and this is what the keepers do for the animals every day on a daily basis. It's a mix of so this one here is some grass hay in it, but also crickets and mealworms. And every day the keepers make something new for the animals, and it's about engaging their senses, whether it's their sense of smell, their sense of touch, whatever it is, and it's about exhibiting natural behavior. So they're foraging for their food instead of always having it served on a dinner plate for them.
They look like they enjoy it.
They do.
Now these are babies?
They are. These are the twins that we had that were born here last year. So even though they're about the same size as the adults now, they're a little bit friendlier.
Oh yes, there's a curious guy.
Yeah.
Aw. Now the meerkats, what they're famous for is their sentinel.
Yes, there's always a guard standing. So there's always one standing to make sure they're looking for big birds, hawks flying overhead, anything that could potentially be a threat to the mob.
Okay. We'll be back in a minute with more fun from the zoo, but first, let's meet Nell Newman. She borrowed a little money from her dad and came up with a line of organic food, including the organic pretzel.
He promised a worm with every ear. That's how you know it's organic, he'd say.
Nell Newman knows her produce. She learned early on from dear old dad.
My earliest memories of getting groceries with my dad was at Rippy's farm stand. He would surreptitiously strip back the ears to make sure the corn was fresh, and what did a ripe watermelon sound like and a good cantaloupe smell like. So I really got a hands-on, all senses involved experience in picking your produce and picking good produce.
Those lessons stuck, and as president of Newmans Own Organics, Nell has forged a unique path all her own.
My mother would always say, noblesse oblige, those who have give to those who do not.
My motivation for starting Newmans Own Organics was to support organic agriculture and be able to donate money to charity.
That generosity was instilled by her parents, the iconic Hollywood couple, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Despite their fame, her mother maintained a humble household.
I just remember we were always recycling whatever it was that could be recycled. I mean, she was a child of the Depression, so she was very conscientious about saving. She was always very interested in maintaining, an environmental equilibrium in our household.
Raised on a farm in Connecticut, Nell had an appreciation for the Earth's bounty at a young age.
We had a few old apple trees, not as many as these. Most of my childhood was spent running around through the woods with a pack of dogs fishing, and then periodically we would go out to Beverly Hills when Mom and Dad were working, which I hated.
Newman's adventurous spirit suited her dad's outdoorsy nature perfectly.
When I was quite young, I remember we went out, we fished, caught a bunch of flounder and brought them back, and I was probably 10, and Dad said, well, I got to go somewhere, so here's how you got them. And, here, like this, scrape the guts out, rinse it out, put it over here. And and just left, and, here's the knife and left. And so that was how, somebody said, how do you learn how to clean fish? Well, I had to. So we loved it. We loved fishing together.
Nell's connection with the outdoors fostered a fascination for birds. Her favorite, the peregrine falcon, the fastest in the world.
I discovered at about age 11 that the peregrine falcon was extinct east of the Mississippi due to the use of DDT. And that was a really eye-opening experience for me. I was definitely a budding biologist when I was young.
However, given her genes, it was inevitable that Nell would dabble in the family business, appearing with her mother in films like Rachel, Rachel and the Effect of Gamma Rays on Man in the Moon Marigolds, both directed by her father.
I went to acting school to make my parents happy, but I had no interest in becoming an actress.
Newman got a degree in human ecology and focused her work on the environment instead. In 1989, Nell settled in Santa Cruz and was inspired by California's lush offerings. Newman had a vision to spin off what Pa had done with his famous salad dressing.
I really thought what Dad was doing was fantastic, that it was really for the philanthropy, and I just love that concept. I really wanted to follow in his footsteps, but I wanted to do it a little differently and do it by supporting organic agriculture.
But convincing Dad about an organic line required a taste test, so Nell whipped up an organic meal for Thanksgiving.
When he finished wiping his plate clean, I said, so how did you like your organic Thanksgiving dinner?
Nell won him over with her culinary skills, but Dad's support came with a stipulation.
He agreed to let my business partner Pete and I do research for a year, and he said, I'll pay each of you $15,000 each for a year's worth of research, and then you got to pay me back for all the startup costs.
They paid him back within a year, and in 1993 launched Newmans Own Organics, the second generation. What started as nostalgia food has grown into over 150 products. A royalty from the sale of every item goes to the Newmans Own Foundation.
The foundation supports a lot of things. The camps for kids with life-threatening diseases that Pop started, which are all over the world. The Organic Farming Research Foundation here in Santa Cruz.
The 6-month apprenticeship program at UCSC provides hands-on training in the production, marketing, and social issues of sustainable food and agriculture.
As you can see, it's a spectacular small organic farm where kids from all over the world come, and it's a fantastic hands-on way of learning organic agriculture.
We really help support folks here eat locally and eat organic. Everything that we put in the CSA boxes is grown here on the farm.
My dad came up here and saw this project several times and was always very enamored of it.
Graduates of the program continue the cycle of paying it forward.
It's quite an amazing experience. People from all over the world, and then returning to their countries to continue teaching sustainable agriculture. It's really a way to spread the education worldwide.
In 2002, the company added Fair Trade Coffee to the roster, which supports farming communities in Central America.
The average is 5 family members per farm, and that's about 39,000 small farmers that are directly affected by being able to grow it organically, getting a premium for that. And there's about $1 million that's gone back to all these little cooperatives. in all these coffee growing regions. So that's a tremendous effect. It really gives you a different perspective when you realize that all those beans are actually each picked by hand. You know, carried down on a donkey or somebody's backs and roasted. And you never think about it the same way ever again when you drink coffee. So it was very profound.
Even McDonald's jumped on board. Over 650 New England restaurants serve the Newmans Own Organics coffee.
What a better way to educate the public when you think about it. You know, you're reaching a market that might not even think about it normally. So it really does have really broad implications.
The Newmans' quiet philanthropy has been heard and felt around the world. The foundation has just reached $300 million in donations, a mark that Pa Newman certainly would have been proud.
As he said, if people knew how good it felt to give away money, they wouldn't wait till they died. And that was his motto.
Nell Newman has carried on that tradition and carved out her own niche. What will her legacy be?
I've never thought of that before. You know, I guess just really continuing the legacy of how we started it, grow organic agriculture directly through utilizing ingredients and being able to support the foundation at the same time. That's exactly what the plan was. So that's legacy enough right there.
Welcome back to the Happy Hollow Park and Zoo. Vanessa, I know this is a special anniversary for you. Tell us a little about that.
It is. This is our 50th anniversary. We opened the gates in March of 1961.
Oh my gosh. And I know you have another great thing to celebrate. Tell us a little bit about your special certification.
So in 2008, when we closed for a major renovation, we actually decided to go green during the process. So we are now the first amusement park in the zoo in the country to be Gold LEED certified, which is leadership in energy and environmental design. So everything was built green.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. It's a wonderful zoo. We've had a great time visiting you. Thanks for opening up your zoo to us.
Thanks for coming.
Well, for all of us at This Is Us and Vanessa from the Happy Hollow Park and Zoo, I'm Becca King-Reed saying so long.
This is us.